Hey everybody, my name is Kyla. Welcome to my channel where I talk about the stock market and the economy amongst other things. Today we're going to talk about how Taylor Swift saved the economy. So it wasn't just the concert revenue that she brought in, she did so much more. This tour will probably surpass $5 billion in global revenue, and it's because of hotels, it's because of flights, it's because of specialized donut offerings. She has not only boosted the global economy, but she's boosted local economies too. One museum had their best day in their 65-year history just because they had a Taylor Swift exhibit. So let's talk about what Taylor Swift has done and whether or not this can continue into the future, like what the economic future without President Taylor Swift kind of looks like. As Anthony Rizzo said,
Taylor Swift, it's her summer really. She's helping the economy in every city she goes. So
Taylor's soon going to conclude her US tour. She's ending with 6 nights in Los Angeles, and people have flown in all over to go and see her. The city that I was in, the 2 nights that she was here, it was crazy. Like, people were milling about just with pink, and they were wearing these elaborate costumes, and they were buying these special drinks that were for Taylor Swift and these special product offerings at local businesses, and the energy was just wild. And I wasn't going to the concert, but it sure seemed like everybody else was. In fact, you could see some concert spaces from space. So like the concert that had happened in the city of Denver, you could actually see Taylor Swift's concert from space. So not only is this woman an economic force, but she's a force of nature. She's so powerful. And fans are spending about $1,300, whether that be on hotels, the tickets themselves, whether that be on flights, whether that be on these costumes that they end up designing, food, drinks. That's a huge expense on a concert. But she has had, 50,000 to 70,000 people in each of the stadiums that she's going into. So imagine all of those people, 50,000 people spending $1,300 on average on one night of this. And that's happening so often, and it has happened for months now, and now it's ending and she's going abroad. Same sorts of stimulus exist abroad too. So she's not going to New Zealand, but she's going to Australia. And so New Zealand has like special flights out of New Zealand to go to Australia so people can go and watch Taylor Swift. It's wild. $5 billion in global revenue, like I said. People are spending about $1,300 per event, 71% saying the event was worth it, 91% saying they'd go again, and there's 70% of people, this was their first Taylor Swift concert. The average person was thinking, I think, that they would spend about $600 maybe, but obviously that's not the case. And they'd pay up to $1,300 to do it again, so they'd pay the exact same amount, the exact same experience. That's wild. If Taylor Swift were an economy, she'd be bigger than 50 countries. If she was in a corporation, her net promoter score, so how people talk about her, would make her the 4th most admired brand, like right up there with Apple. People love her. And her loyalty numbers mimic those of the Royal Crown, so people follow her around. She has developed a fandom, right? Like, people love her, and I'll talk a little bit more about fandom later on, but getting more into the weeds of it, hotel revenue, she was actually mentioned in the Federal Reserve Bank of Philadelphia because they were like, the days that Taylor Swift was the biggest month for hotel revenue since the pandemic here in Philly. Like, thank you, Taylor Swift. And as she's going to Los Angeles, the hotel service workers that are going on strike because of lower wages are asking Taylor Swift to not do her tour because they're like, hey, listen, you have so much power. If you just say you're not going to come here and ask our hotel managers to give us higher wages, you might be able to do that because you have so much influence and so much power. And then Southwest Airlines reported record revenue. Hilton, which is a hotel brand, said that people are spending more across all their hotels. Designers are designing special outfits for this tour. And then there's like special bracelets that people were giving out. So these flights, like I talked about, New Zealand to Australia, the airline had to add 14 more flights to accommodate 3,000 more people, 14 more flights, so people could leave New Zealand to go to Australia to watch Taylor Swift do her thing. And it's also the local economies too. So like I said, there were special drinks. There was also donuts with her face on it that those people had like a record night. This museum had a record, the best night in their 65-year history. She is estimated to gross $13.6 million from her concerts, each attended by, like I said, an average of 54,000 people. And now she's going on her global tour, and this tour could become the first $1 billion tour, surpassing Elton John's 93.9 million Farewell Yellow Brick Road shows. And she has boosted like entire categories. So concert spending increased 32% year over year when adjusted for inflation, as Kyla talks about. She like literally had an earthquake happen in Seattle. They were registered on the seismometer because of how powerful their stomping feet were at this Seattle concert, which is just incredible. A swift quake is what they call it. And then, of course, like I said, the city of Denver, you could see the freaking concert from space. And also she has political power too. So when this tour first started, Ticketmaster got into a lot of trouble because the site crashed when the tickets went on sale. And it's like, dude, you have one job. And so there was a congressional hearing about Ticketmaster as a monopoly and whether or not that hinders competition and harms consumers, which Taylor Swift sort of led. She was like, this is not my fault that Ticketmaster doesn't know how to do their one job that they're supposed to be doing. So not only is Taylor Swift an economic force, not only is she a natural force, not only is she a political force, she is all of those things and more. Like, she is just a force of within herself, and it's really incredible. And she has boosted the economy. Like, I think, we have fiscal spending, we have the government with the CHIPS Act, IRA, the IIGA, that has given a lot of bolstering to economies. But then I think in terms of consumer spending, Taylor Swift, Barbie, Beyonce's going on tour soon, that has really provided a lot of revenue as well. And of course, like, people, I didn't go to the concert, so I'm sure a lot of people out there are like, well, I don't know what you're talking about. Taylor Swift isn't that important to me. She's important to enough people that a small city shows up every time that she does a concert. 54,000 people. That is bigger than the town I went to school in. Like, that is so many people just every single night listening to this woman, all spending $1,300 on this experience. So she has really provided a floor to the economy in the same way that fiscal policy has. So we have Taylor Swift policy, and then we have fiscal policy, and then we have monetary policy. And Jerome Powell, he got asked about this by a journalist at the Federal Reserve meeting, or the FOMC meeting, and the journalist was like, what do you think about Taylor Swift and Barbie boosting the economy? And he was like, yeah, people really like it, because to him it's like, wow, they're spending so much money. And of course the question now is like, well, how are they spending all this money? And a lot of it is credit card spend. So people have a lot of credit card debt right now, but we're also finally starting to see real wages begin to tick up. We're starting to see people get raises. We're starting to see that begin to normalize. And so that's really good, because obviously it's No Opinion wrote this great piece this morning talking about how it feels really bad for the past couple of years because wages have been so stagnant, but wages are starting to tick up again, which is really good. And therefore, people, I think, feel like they have a little bit more leeway to do things like this. Axios published a piece saying that this economy is running on girl power. Consumers are prioritizing experiences and entertainment over buying things. And the rise of hybrid work means that a lot of people have the flexibility to go and buy things. And Barbie itself is also like another economic force. So that movie is going to probably surpass $1 billion at the box office, which is super cool. And the highest grossing movie of the year. It'll be the second year in a row that there's no superhero movies in the top two. And I talked about Barbie and Oppenheimer in a previous video, but like that has also provided an economic boost to the economy as well. So my whole theory is that like Barbie and Oppenheimer and Taylor Swift all coinciding at the same time, also during a hot girl summer, has made it where they all were able to build upon themselves. So people who went and saw Taylor Swift probably went and saw Barbie as well. And so I feel like there's sort of this like feel-good atmosphere in some aspects of consumer spending, partially because real wages have begun to increase, and partially because credit card debt has begun to increase as well, which is concerning. But I think that the two have been a catalyst for each other and have really provided a boost to the economy, as many others have pointed out that we needed, beyond just fiscal policy. And of course, monetary policy is trying to squash all of that down. But it's quite interesting. And of course, none of this negates the fact that there is still weirdness within the economy, that the way that we measure the economy might not be right, that a lot of people are having trouble affording food, a lot of people are having trouble affording rent, we have a housing crisis. So I think when we talk about stuff like this, where you have people spending $1,300 on a concert experience, it's kind of like, oh, what the heck? Like, it just feels more and more bifurcated to exist in the economy that we do exist in. And I don't quite have the solution for that at the moment, but there's a lot of really interesting papers coming out in the fall talking about this sort of stuff. I think we'll address some of these issues, but it's interesting to think about what could happen post Taylor Swift tour. So we have student loan debt payments starting back up, which is just catastrophic. It's really frustrating to me. So I don't have any student loan debt. I was very lucky to get a full ride to school, worked all throughout school to afford my life, like, you know, worked, and went to a school specifically because I got a scholarship there. But a lot of people, that wasn't an option, so they had to take out student loan debt. And I'm not going to make this into a student loan debt video, but I feel like, you know, we provided so much support to corporations in the private sector with the CHIPS Act, with the IIGA, with the IRA, and of course, student loan debt was a component of some of that. But I do think like we could provide a little bit more support to people who went to school with the intent of usually bettering themselves. Some people just went to goof off, but usually you go to kind of better yourself and learn. And I think if we just could maybe help people out there, that'd be useful, because we do it so often for corporations, and corporations are people and people are people. So I know that a lot of people are like, well, it's your personal responsibility if you choose to take out debt. Why should my taxes pay for you to goof around at college? And I don't know, it's kind of like, well, don't you kind of want a more educated populace? And I get that, like, sometimes it's not fair. Sometimes life is not an even playing field, and it really sucks. But I think that the more that we can help our fellow constituents, the communities that we live in, the more that we can help people afford food, and if that's forgiving student loan debt payments, I'm all for it. I think that the better that would be. And of course, there's all sorts of arguments that you can make against that and for it. But I do think that that will be an interesting headwind to the post Taylor Swift tour, is student loan debt payments starting back up. Now, Taylor Swift, maybe she could forgive. Wouldn't that be nuts if she forgave all student loan payments with her? It'd be probably not enough money, but if she forgave it all with her concert revenue. But yeah, Taylor Swift has been the economy this summer, and we have some headwinds coming up in the fall. But Beyonce's going on tour, so maybe it'll be just fine. We'll see. All right, thanks so much for hanging out. Thanks so much for spending time with me. I hope that you all are doing okay. I'll talk to you very soon. Bye.